The bell tolls. The midnight hour is upon us. It's time once again for two internet strangers to discuss the good and evil of the horror genre. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the terror within the Hallow-Holics Anonymous podcast.
I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I don't normally hang out with random dudes I meet in mall parking lots, but when you told me you had this killer game collection, I knew I'd made the right choice to get in your van.
Yeah, no problem. Hey man, can you pass me that book over there?
The sticky one?
Nah man, nah. The one right by it.
Oh, everything you wanted to know about women but were afraid to ask?
Yeah, that book changed my life. Do you have a moment to talk about The Matrix?
Yeah, sure. It's okay. A really nice time capsule of the 90s.
So, there's these pills, man. They tell you all about the world, right?
Following you.
If you take one, you realize that women just want you for money and they can have sex with anyone they want, and that's why they don't. Corey, come quick. It's time to start the podcast.
Oh, thank God.
Hi, I'm Maddie.
And I'm Corey.
And this is Hallow-Holics Anonymous.
A show dedicated to all things horror and occasionally Halloween and biker movies and whatever else we want to shoehorn into this show.
This one, I know I spelled the title weird, but it's because I don't want to actually use that word as a tag in any respect.
Yeah, no, that is a very good idea.
Yeah, because they get very angry when people talk negatively about them on the internet and hurt their feelings.
Well, I mean, they're essentially just this package of feelings. I feel like I watched this documentary about incels.
Well, real quick though, yeah, incels. Okay, go on.
Oh yeah.
That's the subject.
The show is like loosely based on incels because I don't think we picked movies about incels, but we'll get to that when we get to the movies. I watched this documentary on them. Apparently some girl started a forum for lonely people, and that was sort of like where the movement started. I hate calling it a movement because I feel like I'm giving it legitimacy, which I don't want to do.
Well, terrorism is also a movement, so...
Yeah, that's true, but I also don't like to give terrorism legitimacy. So it originally started out as a collection of lonely people getting together and talking about being lonely and sort of building a community around other people who felt, being and talking about that and sort of helping each other through it. It wasn't until, I mean, this is very much like the whole white nationalist movement in the 80s in Britain with the anti-foreigner stuff and the Nazi skinheads. You've got this forum, and probably at this point multiple forums, of vulnerable people that turn their sadness and loneliness into anger because somebody else brings up that it's not their fault because they're very nice. You know, it's not their fault because they're nice to these, quote, Stacys, and the Chads are taking away all their women.
Yes, and this community is mostly like 90% men.
Yeah. It is very much, especially now. Like now incel has this negative connotation that is well deserved because they haven't really painted themselves in a good light other than what this girl said in this documentary I watched. So I just want to clear up that incel can mean basically lonely people who can't meet someone.
And what's it short for?
Involuntary celibacy.
Yes.
But it's at this point got a very negative connotation, and it should, because incels have done and said a lot of terrible, terrible, terrible stuff. I do want to make it clear that I don't want to lump all lonely people into this whole incel thing. I want to make it clear that we're specifically speaking of these people who think that women owe them something. You know, the nice guys in this group, because the incels and nice guys seem to go hand in hand. And I want to make it very clear that this is about the ones that go out and shoot people and bully people on the internet and bully people in real life, because they're human trash to me, and I don't care what I say about them.
And they discuss strategy of emotional manipulation of women and how to basically get you what you want out of them. Even if you end up in a relationship with a woman, how to basically keep her under your thumb and ensure that she knows you are always superior.
Yeah, and now we're getting into gaslighting and everything. Yeah, just it's bad. It's bad. And these people are terrible, and I would not be upset if the snap took them all away.
Yeah.
Avengers reference.
There are people who make money off of it just by being dating experts.
No. Oh, God.
What are they called?
They're called pickup artists. And I hate that. They're the worst. They wear their stupid furry pimp hats and their dumb velvet shirts, and they harness this pain in people to make money, teaching them something that isn't even going to work necessarily. There's a really good Dark Mirror that's sort of about that with John Hamm.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen it?
I have not.
Okay, I strongly recommend. It's part of the Christmas episode.
As long as I live, I will not watch Dark Mirror.
Why?
I don't want to.
That's the shittiest toddler.
It's slow and boring, okay?
How many episodes have you tried to watch?
Half of one.
You are the worst type of person I've ever met. In the episode of Incels, you are the worst type of person I've ever met. I don't mean that. I adore you. I would appreciate it if eventually you gave it another chance. Maybe suffer through that first episode and get into the other stuff, because it is one of the best sort of near-future sci-fi TV shows I've ever seen in my life.
Well, what I don't like about the concept of Dark Mirror, even though this is not a Dark Mirror episode, is that it's always supposed to basically end on a downer and there's no hope, and at least half of Outer Limits ended up with some hope, at least. I like having hope in my anthology horror.
Not all of them. You've got the nanotech episode of the re-release of Outer Limits that ended horribly bad.
I said half.
And
least.
really not all the Dark Mirror episodes end complete. Like, people get what they deserve in a lot of those, and that's a good ending.
That's not what I don't want a story about revenge. I want a story about hope for humanity being found in the lost.
You get those too. You actually get those in my least favorite episode of the Dark Mirror. Oddly enough.
Like in the shittiest one, you get those.
No. There are a few that give you hope for the future and hope for. I don't want to give too much away because there are so many good episodes. But yeah, I don't know how we went from like my rant on pickup artists to Black Mirror, but let's rein it back in.
Oh, Black Mirror, yeah, Dark Mirror, Black Mirror, whatever.
Oh, I may have been calling it the wrong thing too. Sorry, nerds.
I'm sorry for calling you nerds, too.
I'm not sorry about that. They know who they are.
They're listening to us. As long as we're apologizing. I'd also like to apologize to James for calling you Jonathan on Twitter.
Oh, that little exchange was really funny. He was super chill about it. I thought about jumping into the fray, but then I'm like, wait, he doesn't know me, and I don't want him to like take anything I say weird, but I totally wanted to throw you under the bus about being terrible and having a bad memory. I basically wanted to pretend you were me. But I chose not to because I hadn't talked to the dude.
Listen, he's listened to a lot of our show. He knows who you are.
Okay. Well, yeah, she's sorry, James. I would never do something like that if you were to interview me ever. But I also would be terrible to interview because I have the worst memory on the planet and I can't take anything seriously.
Back to incels. We just thought this would be a fun little way to talk about the subject and to find a few horror movies that I felt fit into the field. Because unfortunately, it was a little difficult to find Fade to Black in time because it's out of print.
Oh, but we're going to do it. I can't wait. Did you get a tracking on that yet?
I should be getting it by the 8th. So after I get back from Japan, we might be discussing that. So we're talking about Lifeforce, which represents the evil female side of incel culture, and Maniac,
which represents
doesn't. The desperate, empty, lonely male side of incel culture.
Except it also doesn't.
Yeah, but before that, there's a few things we need to talk about.
On this day in horror history.
Tom Hennessy, stuntman and actor who played Gilman on Land in Revenge of the Creature, was born in 1923. Walter Burke, who was in M and Jack the Giant Killer, died in 1984. And also White Zombie in 1932 was released, as well as Psycho Beach Party in 2000.
God, we
Charles
gotta do
Busch.
that movie.
Love Charles Busch.
Yeah, we did a production. It was a cursed production of Vampire Lesbians of Sodom.
Oh man.
In our small black box studio. One of my closest friends was the drag queen Nazi character, and there's a great picture of him floating out there with like pantyhose, high heels on the, like in the bottom half, and the top half was just like straight up Nazi. It was so great.
Oh my god. You know, I was talking to my mom the other day about Charles Busch, and I said, you know, I wonder why Charles Busch and John Waters haven't done a movie together. And then I realized there can only be one queen.
John Waters doesn't
like
really
the
do
Highlander.
movies with other people, does he?
I mean, he features some pretty solid actors. He had
Well, yeah.
But no, I don't think he usually co-produces or anything. But it would still be fun to see them work together.
Or it
But
would be
again,
cool to see
I
him
would just
direct
imagine
one of
a Highlander
his
battle.
scripts. Yeah, that's true too.
And that was on this day in horror history.
So the game we're doing this episode because we forgot to do a game last episode.
It's funny we both forgot that because it's such.
Yeah.
I mean, we had the horror pack to sort of like fill the time, but
We fit a lot of stuff into that episode, I think, and stuff
Yeah.
came in at the same usual time. I don't know. So this game I came up with is Find the Incels. We're each going to pick 5 movies that has an incel in it in some way or something related to incels and explain why.
oh, this is so much harder than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was just going to be like, hey, here's a character. Is it a Chad Stacy or incel?
We can do that.
No, let's try this. I'm going to fail horribly at this, but
Okay, so my first one, as an example, would be the one I actually sent you a message about recently. Phantom and Phantom of the Opera is the ultimate incel. Not only does he find his muse, what would the word be to describe like the unicorn? He finds his unicorn obsession. Yeah. He tries to train her to be as perfect as he wants her to be, and then when she falls for a Chad, he decides to kill everybody.
I was waiting for you to ask me a question based on that.
Oh, do you think that we should probably do it the other way you were saying then, so it's more interactive?
Oh, no, are we just... I thought we were listing each other movies and we were going to explain why I'd give you, like, Nightmare on Elm Street, Dream Warriors, and you'd tell me who's an incel. Or
Okay,
who's
yeah,
a
we
Chad.
can do it like that. Yeah, let's do it like that.
Okay.
But my example right there was an example of both sides there, so...
Yeah, exactly.
We are totally together.
Right.
We plan everything out, guys.
Yes, we do. We talk at length during the week about our show.
Because we want to give you a polished, perfect product.
Exactly. I'm nothing if not quality.
So would you like me to give you the first movie, or you want to give me the first movie?
Why don't we just start with Dream Warriors? Because I think it's a pretty good pick.
Okay, Dream Warriors. Oh, boy. You know what? I'm not going to go with the answer you expect.
Why would you think I'd expect an answer?
I just feel like you would expect an answer. I'm going to go ahead and say that male nurse who tries to manipulate the girl with the, like, former drug addiction into sleeping with them and offers her drugs.
That's not a bad one.
Yeah.
Although that's kind of a Chad thing.
Oh, yeah, but he doesn't get her.
That's a good point, too. Maybe
He's just a beta trying to be an alpha.
I'll give you that. And I really hate that you just used those words so much. That was like nails on the chalkboard. Oh, I hate this episode.
Oh, and the psychiatrist is a white knight.
Yeah.
So White Knight is a guy pretending to be pro-feminist or whatever to get into a woman's pants. And apparently that's a bad thing for incels, even though they like to manipulate women. I don't know.
I mean, White Knight is also an insult these days for people just trying to do nice things on the internet. But more often than not, it's your definition.
Mm-hmm. And do we have to explain the words alpha and beta?
If we do, I don't want those listeners, so let's not.
Okay.
JK, LOL, love you all.
Let's try to hold on to our listeners. Okay, my movie for you. Oh, this is going to be fun. I'm going to give you one of your favorite movies, which I always seem to forget the name of. It has the Bloodstone in it.
Yeah, why am I spacing it? It's subspecies. Subspecies.
Okay, go.
Radu can't be an incel because he's not trying to be nice, really. Like, he doesn't have the nice guy thing going on. He's kind of a jerk. So he's like a Chad who doesn't get laid.
He's a jerk.
In that situation, this has nothing to do with Radu not getting what he deserves.
Okay, it's strictly with how he treats women.
Yeah, this is strictly how he treats women, which I have never appreciated. So
you've got to talk to him about that.
I'll try to get the fictional character who hasn't made a movie in almost 30 years his number and give him a
well,
ring.
You guys did go to high school together in one of our games, so.
That's a good point. Man, we're talking the first one specifically?
Yes.
That's a difficult one. I guess the male lead whose name's escaping me is kind of a Chad, but like he's a good dude. I mean, Chads can be good dudes though. Like that's the incel. It just means people who get girls. You know, it doesn't necessarily mean bad people.
It just means socially competent people who don't like to manipulate their partners.
Right. So yeah, I'd say that dude, whatever his name is, would definitely be a nice Chad.
I just think of him as the brother.
Oh, that's right. He was Radu's brother. I forgot about that. I feel like I'm forgetting somebody Incelne, though, that isn't Radu. I don't know. But yeah, I'm going to go with the male lead as a Chad, but a nice one.
Okay.
All right, my turn. This may end our friendship and the show, but...
like it does every week.
Right. Delamorte Delamore, a.k.a. Cemetery Man.
Oh, man. Well, Dead Girl's definitely like a Stacy.
Yeah.
Head flying around, manipulating men to get the dead bodies or to get the living bodies she craves to eat, to destroy and eat. I mean...
Oh, you're talking about the severed head.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Specifically the severed head.
Yeah. So you're not going to go there. You're not going to mention that Francesco Delamorte is basically the definition of nice guy.
I was going to say he's woke, actually.
How do you figure he's woke?
He's aware of the world around him. He gets what death is.
Yeah, but still, he thinks all those girls owe him just because he's in this hopeless love with them.
I feel like his little friend is like a little bit more of an incel than him.
Nagi? No way. Nagi's actually like super well adjusted and actually becomes more functional as the movie goes along.
I'm imagining him eating spaghetti and I really don't think he's well adjusted.
Yeah, but he says in his way that it all gets mixed up in the stomach in the end, so he gets it. Nagi's not nearly as messed up, especially by the end of that film, as people think he is.
Oh my god.
He's the logical like grounding of that movie and that cast. You gotta watch it again. You'll get it.
Yeah, okay, next one. Army of Darkness.
3 each or 5 each?
5 each.
Okay.
Army of Darkness.
Army of Darkness. Bruce Campbell, Ash, Chad, 100%.
Yeah, of course. That's obvious. That's a given.
Yeah. Skeleton King, definitely incel, not nice guy. Sort of the second knight guy, like the main knight dude.
King Arthur?
Was that King Arthur?
Yes!
Dude, I haven't seen that movie in 20 years. That was King Arthur?
Yes!
That was in Camelot. Deadites are in Camelot.
Yeah, pretty much.
I need to watch that again because I don't believe you at all. Anyway, King Arthur, I guess, is like, I don't know, he's kind of, I guess, an incel because doesn't Ash cockblock him?
No, yes.
Yeah. So let's go.
In every respect of the word. I want to say he's into Ash, though, but that's just how I write my fan fiction, so you know.
I'm into Ash. You can write that.
He's evil, pure evil. You work out, John.
All right, it's my turn. Pieces, since you made me watch it accidentally.
Oh, my God. I did not make you watch that movie. You're the one who wasn't paying attention.
You said the word Pieces, and I forgot the word Lifeforce. Therefore, I watched Pieces as a movie.
Okay, well, Mr. Pretty Eyes is definitely a nice guy.
Who's Mr. Pretty Eyes?
The professor.
Oh, yeah.
It's been too long since I've watched it to give you the specifics. I just know that he was real weird about relationships with people.
Yeah, I think that he's gay, too. I think that there's a conversation with the dean in the end that says something like that, but we'll do that movie some
Well,
other
that's
time.
weird because he was looking at the porn when he was a kid in that room, wasn't he?
Oh, the puzzle.
Yeah.
Oh, you're talking. Oh, I thought you were talking about the professor. I'm sorry. Yeah. No, you're 100% right there. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Would this be my third one or fourth one?
Let's see. I did Nightmare 6, Cemetery Man, Pieces. So I've done 3, and you started it, so you must have done 3.
Okay, so this will be my fourth one.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna throw you.
If we've never seen it, it's a pass without any. Not that we actually score these, but I don't lose any points if I have to pass.
Okay, I didn't know that we were scoring points on this, but
We're not. We haven't done points since the murder quiz.
I've got a good one for you.
All right.
John Carpenter's The Thing.
Technically, they're all incels because they live in the Arctic.
And they're nerds.
Yeah, that's true. Except for McCready.
Well, he plays chess though.
Yeah, but that's just to give him more depth.
Oh, dude, no, actually, there's a whole thing that I figured out about that, but we're not talking about The Thing right now.
Yeah, save it because we've got to do the thing eventually.
Yeah,
Just
but
like everybody else.
seeing him play chess is a very important moment. That's all I'm gonna say.
I feel like I read something about that, but we'll not talk.
Well, no, I actually figured it out on my own, but I'm sure someone's written about it.
Oh, God. Yeah, that's my answer. Every one of them is involuntarily celibate because they're in the Arctic. The only one getting inside anybody in that movie is the alien.
McCready angrily showing The Thing like a picture of a woman and say, "Shift! Change!"
I will accept you inside me if you turn into this. Oh, I should have Googled something. Resolution.
Oh.
Because I just noticed it on my shelf earlier today.
Well, the drug addict friend is definitely a nice guy, and the main guy is a Chad.
Yeah, good. I'm so glad you forced me to watch that movie, by the way. I don't know if I ever thanked you for that. That would have been sitting, that would have been sitting on my shelf for a year at this point had you not told me it was good. And then I would have never seen The Endless. Oh, and my life would have been very different.
And that's the whole purpose of this podcast, to get out of our comfort zones and watch movies that we might think that we wouldn't like.
Even though we own them, because we pay $20 a month for mystery movies just to entertain people.
All right, my final one for you. Hellraiser 2.
Hellraiser 2. I don't think any of the Cenobites actually get to have sex. I think that's part of the whole pain is pleasure thing. So I suppose, and I'm pretty sure they all want to, so I think all the Cenobites are incels, but Frank is a Chad. Mm-hmm. And the doctor trying to get him out seems kind of like, she looks like a Stacy, but she's got to have some incel stuff going on. Mm-hmm. Because you don't just throw somebody on a blood mattress because you want to get laid. You know, you do that because you haven't been laid in some time. And I'm speaking from experience. Sometimes you have to throw a man on a blood mattress to make out with a skinless dude.
Words to live by, guys.
Yeah, you're welcome for that little tidbit of wisdom.
There's no situation in which that wouldn't come in handy.
None.
If you're lost in the woods, just remember those words.
Find a bloody mattress, throw a dude on it, and you're good. Family getting you down, dude on a bloody mattress, you're good.
Family reunion, dude on a bloody mattress.
Exactly. And in fact, in that situation, bring the skinless guy to meet your relatives. All right.
Now you realize the doctor is a man and the skinless person was a woman, right? Except for Frank, the dead brother-in-law.
I thought that the whole point was, oh no, that's right, they were bringing back Lady from season 1, from episode 1.
The stepmom. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay. Gender bend everything I said, and I'm still right.
Okay.
I just got it backwards. Sorry, everybody. Tweet me how bad of a horror fan I am. That's fine.
Mm-hmm. And send him pictures if you want.
Yes. Just send me pictures of your middle fingers and
or a blood
disappointed
mattress.
in me.
Yeah,
or a bloody mattress.
That advice.
You know, just throw a dude on a bloody mattress. Good. All right, my last one is Alien Resurrection, specifically Alien Resurrection.
Oh boy, big ol' alien trying to
find
be
a mommy.
Sigourney Weaver's baby. Total nice guy.
That's such a gross way to put it. Sigourney Weaver is straight up Stacy in that movie, man. God, was she beautiful.
She's kind of also a Chad.
Yeah, she's a Chasey or a Stad.
Because, like, Ridley, that's her name, right?
Yeah.
Ridley doesn't conform to any gender norms.
No, she doesn't at all. That's why she's one of my favorite characters, and that's why specifically she is one of my favorite characters in Resurrection. And I feel like I'm trying to like be confrontational with our listeners, and I swear I'm not doing that. But I actually love Alien Resurrection. So guys, be mad at me again, throw a dude on a bloody mattress, whatever. But Jean-Pierre Jeunet is a really good director, and he did a lot of cool things in that franchise, and I just don't think he gets the credit that he deserves for that movie.
You know, that was one of the movies me and my parents saw in theaters together.
Did you guys like it?
I don't remember. It was a long time ago.
Oh, okay. Well, I watch it fairly often. I have all the aliens.
All I remember is like the suddenly sad alien face, and it's the last part that gets sucked out into space.
Yeah.
I'm being very sad about that.
Yeah, that was actually like that was really well done too, and that's again like that director's sort of thing. It's the same guy who did Amelie and City of Lost Children, obviously. He's really good at having you feel something for somebody you don't necessarily. He's just really good with feelings, much better than I am with feelings.
You know who's not good with feelings, or wasn't good with feelings? God rest his soul.
Frank, what was his name? I just watched it. Joe Spinelli's his real name.
No, I was actually talking about Tobe Hooper, too. Unfortunately, Tobe Hooper has also left us.
Right, we're doing your movie first.
Yeah. Lifeforce.
From the director of Poltergeist and the writer of Alien comes a terrifying new film.
I'm getting a very small
Terrifyingly great film.
I know, right?
EGR's confirmed.
Tell them we have an artificial
like
oxygen out here. In the tale of Haley's Comet.
Wiener.
Heart? Yes.
That's what I thought, because I am a 41-year-old man-child. I'm like, space wiener.
Jesus. Houston, we have a problem.
There are
Something's happening to me.
things in this setup.
Something hungry. That's
I'm going to
growing.
talk about it later, but man, did Cannon throw some money at this movie.
Oh, yeah.
Totally alien to this planet in our life form. And totally dangerous.
We just found a body in
Plagues
Hyde
are
Park.
always hitting London.
I like that they even mentioned this is the worst thing that happened to London since the break. I thought that was cool.
Life Force.
Well, why set in London if they weren't going to figure that one out?
Close your eyes.
Visited you how?
In my mind.
There's some cool effects in this movie.
You didn't stop it. It's too late.
I mean, it doesn't all work, but still, there's some
Well, this was supposed to be Cannon's Poltergeist, basically. Like, this was one of the highest budgeted movies they did.
Life Force. The terror
Well,
has
I mean,
just
honestly,
begun.
Invaders from Mars is probably supposed to be guys, but yeah. We'll get to that. Haley's Comet has returned, bringing with it 3 unlikely vampire alien tourists. All they want...
sound like a sitcom. 3 unlikely alien pals coming to Earth with Life Force on their mind. I'm sorry.
All they want is to see Big Ben, meet the Queen, and suck every last drop of life energy from England and possibly the world. It's a wacky, action-packed ride for 5 minutes, followed by just a little bit of heart-to-heart and body hopping, and then 20 minutes of pretty much nothing, and then even more action. That's Life Force, the movie that always leaves you wondering, were they real?
Wait, are you asking me were they real?
No, I'm not asking. I'm telling you that's what it will leave you wondering.
Oh, okay. I've seen Life Force a whole bunch of times, and I really like Life Force.
I wonder why.
Yeah, dude, these 2 movies, I've seen in preparation for this episode, I saw more boobs preparing for this episode than I did in my entire 9-day vacation in Florida with my girlfriend. Anyway, in my defense, I was sick for the majority of the trip. I just lost my train of thought. I was going to go somewhere else, but you're in charge of this segue. Sorry, I didn't leave you with much.
Okay, so first, if you haven't seen Electric Boogaloo, the wild, untold story of canon films, you really need to.
Yes, that's what it's called.
Yeah, there's a really great bit in there about the movie Lifeforce, and in general, it's just a fantastic love letter to one of the most ridiculous film, air quotes, studios to ever exist.
It really is one of the best documentaries I've ever seen. Second only to the entire 8-hour Friday the 13th documentary. That was phenomenal.
Well, the Nightmare on Elm Street one is good too.
I don't know if I have that one. I don't know if that came in my box set. I'll have to check.
Oh, I'm pretty sure it's like a really long one, but I'm pretty sure it's also like either on Netflix or Amazon at this point.
Oh yeah, probably. I think I've seen bits of it. I don't think I finished it though.
So the trailer for Lifeforce really gets you at the beginning, because if you saw a movie trailer that was made today about it, it wouldn't just say the director of Poltergeist.
No, because that wouldn't mean anything anymore.
It would say Tobe Hooper, God of the Chainsaw, Emperor of Gore, King of Texas Camp, and you would probably get a lot more people buying a copy of the movie or going to see it.
Yeah, even though Texas Chainsaw Massacre is not that gory.
Well, yeah, but there's a lot of blood anyway, so...
The second one was hella more gory.
Well, when you think of original gore, and I'm not talking about the obscure body horror, cannibal, ferox stuff that horror nerds love. I'm talking about just a normal person watching Texas Chainsaw Massacre for the first time. If they hadn't seen modern stuff like Saw or Hostel, it would be pretty gory.
When was the last time you saw it?
Probably last year.
Okay, maybe I need to go back and see it, because I really don't remember it being like, and this is me being objective about it. Like, I really don't remember that much blood in the original. I do remember.
It up. Yeah.
I do remember the hammer scene, and that hammer scene always hurts to watch. But and like, I know people get hung on hooks, but.
Well, at any rate, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 is pretty gory, and he directed that. So people remember that.
Right,
well, it's actually part of the 3-picture deal that Hooper had with Canon. He did Lifeforce, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, and then Invaders from Mars.
That we will never mention again until we decide to do it. I mean,
yeah,
which
so we probably will.
I will get so mad when we do that. Like, my little rant at the beginning of this episode will be nothing compared to when I talk about Invaders from Mars. I bought that just because Tobe Hooper's name was on that. I was so pissed. I was like 15.
Oh, gosh, I wish I could say a lot about it, but all I'm going to say is that, it was his favorite movie growing up, and it was his dream to make that film.
Well, he should have done better. Anyway, continue.
Okay, so this Lifeforce was actually Tobe Hooper's love letter to Hammer Films. And if you go into it knowing that, you can kind of pick up on it. There's a heavily British cast. There's the long dialogue scenes, especially in the dark in the office, the bit with that doctor speaking to the police officer towards the end, or the detective. That right there, straight out of Hammer. That whole sequence. That would be like Dracula revealing himself, I could just imagine Christopher Lee coming out of the shadows there, and it was done really well.
A lot of good smoky gothic sets. Well, one gothic smoky set, but yeah.
So this was an adaptation of The Space Vampires, a novel, which is sort of funny because Mario Bava's Planet of the Vampires, which inspired a lot of set and costume design in science fiction for decades to come, especially the Alien franchise, was based on a story altogether different called One Night of 21 Hours, translated into English from Italian. Now, I can't find an adaptation of that story, but I'd really love the chance to compare them, because One Night of 21 Hours came out first because Space Vampires wasn't published until 1976. But it's just so weird that this one British novel and this one Italian story, maybe one author not knowing about the other, somehow came out with kind of the same concept of energy drinking space vampires.
This is going to be the weirdest reference I ever make on this podcast. But I was watching H3H3's podcast today, like an excerpt from it, where they were talking about if the dude that wrote that terrible cowboy rap song that everybody loves. You know what? Is your finger on the pulse of popular culture enough to know what I'm talking about?
Is that the one that goes, I got friends in low places?
No, that's a country song called I've Got Friends in Low Places. This is the one that's
the one where they're
got horses on my back, blah, 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 blah. No, it's a rap song.
Mudding.
It's Lil Nas.
Yeah, but they're mudding in that video. They're They're all trashy and...
I don't remember. I just remember him riding a horse.
Huh.
I only saw it once, hated it, and can't listen to it again. Although
Country
I heard
has
it a
lost
bunch
its
of
way,
times.
and I think it needs to do a special about going back to Nashville to find its roots.
I agree. There's still some good stuff out there, but we're not talking about country. In fact, I completely lost my train of thought. Why am I talking about this? Oh, right. So I'm watching this podcast, and they're talking about, like, is he or is he not a plagiarist? Because there was this dude who did a similar thing before, and that was influenced by something somebody else did before, which was also influenced by, like, Will Smith's Wild Wild West. Bone Thugs had a cowboy thing. Like, there's all these examples from, like, the inception of rap, essentially, all the way up till today, of, like, them incorporating country music into what they do. In fact, there may still be. There was briefly a type of rap called Gangsta Grass, which the theme to Justified used a song from that subgenre, I guess. And Gila, Ethan's wife, pointed out that sometimes there's just this creative energy in the air that people pick up on at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
And
true,
that's how you
especially
end
with
up
films
stuff
and
like that.
books.
Yeah. That's why you almost always end up like every Deep Impact has an Armageddon. I should have said that backwards. Or the other way, but you know what I mean. Like, yeah, that's why that stuff happens a lot. It's just you put it out in the universe, you know?
Like the year The Prestige came out, there was that other magician movie everyone's already forgotten about.
Yeah, was it The Illusionist or...
I think so, yeah.
I forget, yeah.
The Prestige was better, though, honestly. I'm sorry it was.
I think I liked it better, too. I can't remember, though. It's been a long time since I've seen either of them.
So Hooper wanted the set, the ship specifically in the movie, to look like Dracula's castle. And... because he wanted it to stay as far away from anything Geiger-like as he could, so it wouldn't look like he was just directly trying to rip it off, and he was being a little bit more original with the concept, because at the time, that would have been on everyone's mind in 1980. Right?
It's funny you say that because Dan O'Bannon wrote the script and he did Alien. I see the biotech of this ship, and I'm like, oh, okay, there's Dan O'Bannon's contribution to set decoration. But I mean, it wasn't Geiger inspired at all. Like, definitely it was more I loved how it basically had a giant batwing tractor beam on the front. That was dope.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Now, under the original cut for Lifeforce with Tobe Hooper, what Tobe Hooper had in mind, it was 128 minutes. Everybody at this point in post-production was really, really pissed off at him because Toby kind of played by his own rules, so to speak, as a director. And they felt that this movie was way, way, way too long. So they cut about half an hour off from it, making it like a 90 to 100 minute movie, right? Pretty much butchering it for the American cut we probably might remember in the past. Then footage was later restored, though not completely to its entirety. And a lot of what was cut was basically like exploration of the ship, some of Henry Mancini's music, and then at the last minute they added additions from Michael Kamen and James Guthrie for the American release. And I believe Michael Kamen might have worked on the music for Die Hard, either him or James Guthrie, one of them did. And they tried to kind of imitate the style of Henry Mancini so it would make sense. But
that explains why I couldn't remember half that movie, because I don't think I've ever... Like, I bought this Blu-ray version 2 years ago because one of my camp counselors had never seen it. I'm like, dude, I'm ordering this now. I need to own it anyways, so we're going to watch it. And we watched it, but I was writing a letter as we were watching it, so I wasn't really paying attention. So going back and watching it now, today, I watched it this afternoon because of the whole Pieces debacle. I especially a lot of the time they spent on the spaceship, and I'm like, I didn't remember any of that happening. And there was other stuff that I just wasn't like. I mean, I forget a lot of stuff anyways. It's just the way my brain works, and you know this at this point. I mean, the audience knows it at this point. This guy James knows it at this point. But I know when it's something I forgot and when it's something, and I normally can suspect when it's something I haven't seen. And I had that feeling in a bunch of spots in this movie, and I had no idea that was why. I just assumed the cut I had was the cut that came out. I didn't even read the box.
Oh, do you have the Shout Factory Blu-ray?
I have the Scream Factory version.
Oh yeah, well that's the best version.
Yeah.
I'm jealous.
Well, you too can have it.
If I buy it,
I can send it to you.
oh, that would be cool.
Yeah.
I mean, currently it's free on Amazon, so
Oh, okay.
yeah. So I'm a bit of a practical effects lover, if that hasn't been made clear over the course of this show. And say all you want about Lifeforce, but there is no doubt that there was a lot of love and fun put into this whole effects process, especially with the shriveling, soul-sucked corpses, the explosions, so many awesome explosions.
Yeah.
The bubbling skin at that one point when that doctor was about to basically, like, erupt.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so cool.
Or when she reconstitutes herself out of the blood in the helicopter.
Yes. Oh
That's
my
really awesome
gosh. And the fun Ghostbustery light beams, of course, just flying everywhere.
See, he's coming off Poltergeist for that, so like I completely like. There's definitely some sort of effects relationship between Lifeforce and Poltergeist that I don't know about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
the puppetry is also top notch. Like those desiccated puppets are amazing looking.
You know, you wouldn't believe it, but there is one particular sequence that, like, it looks like they used a crazy amount of special effects, but they didn't use any whatsoever.
Which one?
It was when the astronaut kissed Patrick Stewart. That's just what happens when you kiss Patrick Stewart.
Yeah, that's how I've always imagined it going. God, what weird cast, too. Patrick Stewart was in this, man. And he was still old then. Like, he's been old since, like, I've been born.
In the 1970s, he wasn't terribly old. He was fairly young in Caligula. He still had a little bit of hair.
Oh, I forgot he was in
I think he just prematurely not Caligula, I'm sorry.
Excalibur.
Claudius.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But I think he probably went prematurely gray, and that was the problem, so he shaved. And
yeah, probably.
He's never looked super old. He's just never looked super young.
Yeah. All right, I'll give you that. He was just still gray in the 80s.
So this movie only recovered half of its budget at the box office and was a major beginning of the end sort of disaster for Cannon Films. It's not the reason they collapsed, because they were completely incompetent and half the time they didn't pay their crew. And then they got into this whole financial scandal with one of their apparent, like, executive producers. There's this whole thing. Really, watch that documentary and it's so good, guys.
It is pretty great. And at the end of that documentary, they say that Cannon is actually trying to make their own documentary about themselves, which is such a Cannon thing to do.
I know. That's probably why they tacked it on at the end, because it was just, like, hilarious. And you can't hate those guys. There's just something lovable about what weird hacks they are, because, like, they'd make a million really bad movies and think they were all going to be Oscar winners, but then somehow they'd make something pretty good.
Well, yeah, that's the biggest thing for me in Cannon. Like, if you were to compare Cannon to something we have now, it would be Asylum. But Asylum has no soul. Aside from Z Nation, Asylum is just a soulless cash grab company. Cannon is too, but Cannon gave a lot of people a lot of freedom to make some cool stuff. You know what I mean?
We wouldn't know about Chuck Norris or what's Jean-Claude Van Damme, who I constantly bring up to you before the show starts. It's like before I get into the show, guys, I always have to watch a Jean-Claude Van Damme movie. I don't know why.
I think everybody has to do that.
He could do some great roundhouse kicks. The world would implode if he fought Chuck Norris.
Oh, no doubt, no doubt.
Okay.
I don't even want to get into Jean-Claude. We're not going to go there.
Yeah. Back to Lifeforce. I wonder, though, when they were, like, taking those human vampires back, and they were taking the vampire bat thing, why did they pick the one that they damaged? There were hundreds of them. Couldn't they have picked the one they didn't break the thumb off of? And it's not a major thing, but it's like, come on, guys.
Yeah, that was weird to me, too. Like, I guess it was the closest, and they were kind of on a time crunch at the end there.
Yeah.
I guess. I mean, we never see how they get back.
Yeah, and that hypnosis sexy time with Patrick Stewart, you're watching it and you're like, please don't do it, please don't do it, please don't do it. And you didn't even see it flash to her as he was making out with Patrick Stewart.
Yeah.
Oh, I feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the lead actor in this film, Stephen Railsback, who was in one of our favorite movies we've discussed. Would you like to name it?
No, because I can't remember. I just know I really like him and I've seen him in other stuff.
Turkey Shoot!
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, so say it now.
Turkey Shoot.
He's also in Helter Skelter.
I don't remember him in Helter Skelter, and I just watched that not too long ago, too.
Are you serious? You don't remember him in Helter Skelter?
Well, he wasn't Charles Manson, was he? Was he Tex? Why aren't you talking to me anymore?
Because I'm looking... He was Charles Manson. I was like, he had to be Charles Manson. I was like, I remember him being Charles Manson.
In Helter Skelter, that's the one...
That's 76 miniseries.
Oh, okay. No, that's not the one I'm thinking of. I'm sorry. I'm thinking of the one that the dude from Skinny Puppy did the soundtrack to.
Of course.
It's a newer one. I can't remember. Anyway.
I feel like, space vampire divorce would just be the worst.
Yeah, but they didn't actually get divorced. They just sort of, like, flew off
into their
comment. Ship. Yeah, like, they're good.
I love how Lovecraftian that ending was. Mm-hmm. And if IMDb forums were still a thing, I might have even found a satisfying discussion about it that I could have brought onto this show. But unfortunately, no. There are no IMDb forums. IMDb.
That's so insane. I will never understand. I mean, it was a cancerous nightmare of toxicity most of the time, but there was a lot of good stuff in those forums. I miss them too.
Dude, when I would watch like an Ingmar Bergman movie and be confused about the ending, IMDb forums were there to solve all of my problems and questions. But no, now I have to just be confused whenever I watch Swedish cinema.
No, you don't. That's why Baby Jesus and Steve Jobs invented Reddit.
At any rate, do you think they did survive?
Yes.
I think so too. Because it's Lovecraftian, it just has to happen that way.
Yeah. I think that since we find out at the end that he's some sort of descendant of like... I think they were basically calling him part of Dracula's bloodline. That was, I think, what we were supposed to get out of that.
I think so too, because he also, like, even through their psychic bond, even though about that, he knew that they had been to Earth before.
Yeah, yeah. So I think that he was way more powerful than we think he is. I think he was probably as strong as she was. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I think they totally survived that and descended up into their ship to either go conquer other worlds eventually or like loop back around in 76 years and do it all over again.
Yeah, and plus, like, if he wasn't, then she really wouldn't have bothered to keep him alive on that ship.
Right, right. And if you look, there were still more people alive on that ship, too. So when they said that when they were the only 3 in the beginning, that wasn't true, because there were definitely more underneath when we went back to the ship.
But all in all, you know what? This was a movie that I love and hate at the same time. There's some really long, dragging moments that I felt weren't entirely necessary, and those were actually the parts that seemed like the most homage-y to Hammer films, like following the detective side of the story when he's trying to chase after the general or the astronaut, and then him getting to that office. That whole exchange with him and the doctor was cool, but did we really have to watch that pointless car chase?
I looked at it more as a sort of a tour of the riot scene at that point. Yeah. Like, we were really seeing, and they did such a great job to make it look like London was being destroyed. Especially that scene towards the end where he's near that staircase and there's just corpses all around him.
Oh, yeah. And
so cool.
When, she was in the cathedral and all those bodies surrounded them. Mm-hmm. Because that's where a lot of people would probably try to go if a plague was striking, Churches and bars.
Sure. Yeah.
But I did love this movie. I loved the whole process of watching it. And it did kind of throw me for a loop, even though I'm the kind of person, hence having a movie podcast, who will watch a movie, especially when my mom's in the room. We both do this. And try to analyze it as the movie is going and try to guess what's coming up next or to expect what's coming up next. And
I do that a lot too.
It was hard to predict with this movie.
Pieces was really easy to predict, but this was very hard to predict.
Pieces was Giallo. Giallo follows the same plot points every time.
You consider that Giallo?
I do.
Huh. We'll talk about that some other time. I'm curious about that. So what I really want to know, Maddie, is who's the incel here?
Oh, no, it's not about the incel. It's about the female side of the equation. It's what incels think women are.
Oh, very, very deep, Madeline.
Mm-hmm. Life-sucking space vampires.
Yeah. All right.
Who use their bodies to get whatever they want.
Yeah, okay. I will accept that. Good work.
Yeah, exactly. And soulless.
Well, I mean, they're right there.
Yeah.
Kidding.
He's not, guys.
No, I totally am. I like girls. They're okay.
You know who else liked girls?
Frank Zito.
Frank Zito did, in fact, like girls.
Played by Joe Spinell.
Yeah. I don't know why I announced that like it was news.
I don't know why I went straight to Hitler. I'm sorry, everyone. a young Tom Savini who looks almost exactly like an old Tom Savini.
It's the mustache. Oh man, that bit is so cool.
Yeah, I got a lot to say about that scene. That's the scene that made this movie difficult for the world.
That is so jive, that whole sequence there.
Mm-hmm. I like how long some of these murders take. It really makes you uncomfortable. Like that choking scene in the beginning with the hooker.
Yeah. Well, the nurse sequence especially, I'd like to talk about that.
Like her, that nurse?
Yeah, the blonde who ended up in the bathroom. Her.
Right, I forgot she was the one that got the bayonet.
Yeah.
Maniac. It will tear the life out of you.
I feel like that's a pretty lazy tagline, but I forgive it.
Yeah, I mean, it was a different time, too. Like, this is, like, these are all, like, sort of proto-versions of movies we're so used to now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which is why people were so shocked by this.
Yeah.
You know, this is sort of like the discussion we just had about Texas Chainsaw Massacre applies to this movie as well. It's really like, I mean, there's a lot of gore, but there's movies now that the gore's done a lot better, and it looks a lot better. But at the time,
it had tension though. We don't really build tension properly anymore.
No, that's true. Roger Ebert walked out of the theater after the shotgun to the head from the roof of the car scene. That shocked him so much, he's like, I'm done with this movie. I'm not going to watch the rest of it. I might have an actual quote, but I don't really care. Oh, no, I'm sorry. It was Gene Siskel. Gene quoted directly from IMDb trivia. Gene Siskel was so disgusted by the infamous shotgun head explosion scene that he walked out of the movie, saying on his television show with Roger Ebert, this is where I got that the film could not redeem itself after the ultra-violence that he had seen. Which, had he stayed to the end, it 100% did.
Mm-hmm.
I think.
Well, also, you know, that's a really arrogant statement to say about a genre of film. Even though I don't like a genre, I'm not going to say that it's completely without, like, redemption, because someone out there is going to like it. I think that's a harsh judgment.
I agree, and that's why I hate critics. That's why I don't consider what we do criticism. I consider it discussions.
Let's talk about why this movie is a piece of shit.
What I mean, we don't really do, like, I mean, we do some gags and we laugh at movies, but, like, even when we watch movies that aren't super great, we tend to find something that we find the heart behind the. I didn't give up on. I watched the whole thing.
Oh my god.
That was Dear God No, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I watched that whole movie, Maddie. Oh, it was bad. So Maniac, my Incel of the Week film.
Incel of the Week? We're not doing this every week.
Well, of this week, fair enough. So Joe Spinell plays Frank Zito, the most New York name for a New Yorker there is.
Well, Lustig was involved in this, so you gotta have gritty New York.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, this was supposed to be a lot closer to a Argento film than it got. Goblin was originally supposed to do the soundtrack for it. Argento was supposed to co-produce or something like that. I don't remember, but and you can kind of feel that influence in the way the gore happens, aside from the blood. Well, aside from the blood not being quite as bright as a Argento movie and the colors being a lot more muted.
Like, you couldn't paint a barn with this blood.
Right, exactly. This is a little darker of a blood. Anyway, but that is neither here nor there. It's just an interesting little tidbit. So our Frank Zito was abused in the past by his mother, babied too much. I don't remember because I'm getting it confused with Pieces.
Well, every single sequence you see with him describing this inner monologue until it finally turns into his mother's voice, it kind of reveals a little more of the story over and over again. I think she was paranoid about him being taken away from her, and she was punishing him constantly. It was just fear abuse.
Oh, okay. That's funny. That's sort of like the video game I was playing earlier, Binding of Isaac. He had to go hide from his mom in the basement because she was abusive. Anyway, so Frank Zito's all messed up because his mommy was hugging him too much or whatever.
Oh, well, that's a really great way to downplay child abuse, like severe child abuse and mental trauma. You heard it first, guys.
I don't want to be a nice guy in this episode. It's got bad connotation. So due to the severe mental abuse he suffered as a young man, Frank Zito's personality is sort of split into two. And this is why I don't think this is really a good example of an incel movie. Maybe you can convince me otherwise after I'm done with my little bit. Okay. But he's sort of got two personalities going on. He's got the Frank Zito that is actually fairly functional with women. He meets this beautiful artist. He takes her out. He chats her up. It goes real well. He visits her at work. He brings her a present. If
he wasn't a maniac, Hannah could have loved him.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, you've got this version of him, but you've also got the personality that's split due to the abuse. And this is the one that murders people in horrible ways and scalps women to put their hair on not ventriloquist dummy, mannequins that he brings home from God knows where, and keeps himself surrounded with them because they are reminding him of his mother all over his apartment. He's got these mannequins everywhere. Mm-hmm. There's not a whole lot to say about this movie, really.
It's simple. It's more about the artistic montages of how he pursues and kills these people.
Yeah, and the deaths, oh man. Especially that first, like, for some reason, the least gory death in this movie is the one that gets me the most. At least the least gory murder. I mean, he does mess with the corpse at the end. But when he picks up that hooker and takes her home, and it just builds and builds until he finally just starts choking her. And it takes about 4 to 6 minutes, I think, to actually kill someone by cutting off their oxygen that way, depending on how you do it. And we actually, I don't think it actually took that long on film, but it actually, it was a lot longer than you would see somebody being choked to death these days. It takes a long time, a long, tense, uncomfortable time for him to kill this girl. And there are scenes like that all through this movie that just make me so uncomfortable. The sudden, like you were saying, maybe we should get into the nurse now, but that sudden bayonet, that messed with me too, especially considering it was a bayonet. Wow.
Yeah. What about that bit when he put on all the makeup? And that part was insane.
I'm blanking on the makeup part. Guys, if there's a bit in Maniac where he gets all made up like a lady and dances around, let us know, because we've both seemed to have forgotten it. And I can understand why. This is a fairly simple plot. There's not a lot going on. It's really easy for your mind to wander, especially your head's in 10 different places right now. My head's in 10 different places right now. It's no excuse, but we're not we're not always focusing 100% on these movies, which is kind of where some of my comedy comes from. So I'm not really thinking that's a bad thing.
I'm wondering if I'm thinking of a different movie altogether. This is driving me crazy.
It'd be weird if you were thinking of Silence of the Lambs, right?
No, definitely not Silence of the Lambs, because this sequence is what made me watch the movie the first time I watched it, because I thought it was so bizarre in the trailer.
I don't remember.
Maybe I'm thinking of a different movie. That's frustrating.
Anyway, so Maniac does what Maniac does, kills a bunch of people, mostly women. I think he only kills one dude, right? Tom Savini's the only guy that dies.
No, he kills the boyfriend at the beach, too.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about him.
He kills the people who are in the way of him killing women.
Yeah, because I watched Pieces as well, I got that scene confused with the first murder on the campus in Pieces, which is... Anyway, that is neither here nor there. So yeah, kills a bunch of people, and in the end... It's really interesting the way they end this movie, and I'm going to ruin it for you because this movie's 40 years old. So like I was saying, you've got the ladies' man, Frank Zito, who meets this girl, and it's working out really well. Although when he does go visit her in her studio, he meets a model, steals a necklace, under the guise of returning it to her, gets into this model's apartment and then kills her, and she becomes another scalp. But again, after the funeral, him and this artist go out, and Frank's like, I'd like to go see my mother. Do you mind if we stop at the cemetery? So we stop at the cemetery. He has a mommy's talking to me meltdown, tries to kill her. She escapes, and he is grabbed by the reanimated corpse of his mother, or so it seems. He runs home and cowers like a serial killer probably would, because generally they're cowards, and that's why they pick weaker victims. And this girl bested him, so it freaked him out. So he gets home, and then all of his mannequins come to life and become the women he had murdered, and they take their revenge by stabbing him to death, tearing him apart, cutting his arm off. But it turns out it was just him gutting himself with the bayonet he killed the nurse with. It was sort of a metaphor for his guilt, I guess.
Yeah.
One of the interesting things in that scene is they actually use the head of Jason's mother in Friday the 13th Part 2.
Oh, huh.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of set pieces that are reused in this, and part of it is because of the budget maybe that I'm going to get into, because it's got kind of an interesting budget thing. There's two really interesting things I want to get into that have nothing to do with the plot. The dummy they used for Tom Savini's exploding head, his character, that had been used as well. That had been used a bunch for stuff in Dawn of the Dead. But after this film, it was so destroyed and just soaked in blood. And again, this is coming from the IMDb trivia, that they retired the dummy, which means that this dummy was named Boris, by the way, but they put this dummy in the trunk of the car that was used in that scene and apparently sunk it in the East River, which is interesting to me because they didn't actually have permission to film that scene. So I don't know if what they're trying to say is they went out there and they filmed that scene, pushed the car into the river, and then bolted before the cops came. Like, I don't know if that's the
guerrilla filmmaking stunt.
Yeah, and I looked. I couldn't find any answers to that, but apparently they sunk it in the East River. I'm just not sure if they did it right after filming that scene or not. Let's talk. I'm sorry. Did you want to say something?
We could talk about the nurse's death, because that scene in particular, for some reason, really got to me.
Oh, yeah, you wanted to talk about the nurses. Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. So we actually this is probably the longest escape sequence we see from any of the characters trying to get away from him. Most of them is just like he catches them and he does the job. But she ends up getting, on the subway station, she ends up going into the bathroom and hiding from him. And there's this bit where it's just this quiet tension of half a minute of her like breathing and trying to hold back the sound so he can't hear her. And then she thinks he's gone, and she sort of starts choking and but breathing. And it's this sort of fear I think we all know in our dreams, where you're either trying to scream or you can't keep quiet. And it's something you can identify. And you never see tension built like this in movies anymore.
No, it's because movies are so afraid to take their time.
But you feel like you're a victim with her, and you really, really want her to get away. And even when she peeks around the stall and he's not there, and then she goes back, you hope that maybe she'll spend the rest of the night or there or something where she's going to be safe. But she peeks around again, and then she thinks she's safe after only a few minutes. And she goes to wash her face, and they really do kind of trick you into thinking that maybe she will get away before he shows up behind.
And she gets a bayonet through the back.
That is a really, just for me, that sequence got to me. That was very disturbing to me.
Yeah, that was a rough run. And again, that's where it's at. It took its time, it built up tension, and then the release happened so fast that you just weren't ready for it. You know what I mean? That was really great too. And we're seeing a little more of that now. We're seeing a little more slow burny stuff in movies like A Dark Song and The Endless. Resolution to a point. I mean, it took Resolution, an entire almost unrelated film, to explain what the hell was going on there.
And maybe a little too much in Midsummer.
I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, well, I'm going to say a little too much in Midsummer.
Oh, okay.
Your rituals only need to be so long, guys.
Well, have you seen A Dark Song yet?
I haven't watched it yet, but it's on my list.
Oh, that whole movie is a ritual, and it's actually, if I remember correctly, it's actually a goetic. No, I'd have to look it up again, but it's like Hereditary. They actually did a lot of research into the ritual, and it's good. I really like it. I own it. So yeah, the budget of this movie is weird to me, and I assume this is the kind of like tricky stuff that happened a lot with low budget movies back in the day. The original budget, they had $48,000 in cash. 600 of it, or 6,000 of it, excuse me, came from Joe Spinell, the lead actor, which was part of his salary from a movie called Cruising that he had completed right before this movie started. Another 12,000 came from a guy named Andrew Garone, who I would assume is on the crew.
Well, there was also a lot of dirty money in movies at that point, especially in like New York style productions.
Yeah, well, that's where we're getting into some more interesting stuff. The other 30,000 came from William Lustig, which was profits from porn movies.
And William Lustig, who would later go on to be involved in one of our favorite trilogies.
Which one?
Maniac Cop.
Oh, shoot, that's right. That's right. Which is another thing I want to... We'll circle back to that in a minute, too. So another way they save money... This is off the subject. I'm not done with the money stuff yet. But another way they save money is a lot of the victims were actually porn actresses.
Well, that explains all the boobies.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, they took all that money, put it into the stock market, and ended up growing it to $135,000
Awesome.
as the production was going on. So they really took a chance with the money in this movie, and it looks like another producer named Judd Hamilton came up with another $200,000 to finish the movie. So it looked like this ended up with around $335,000 budget, but a lot of that money basically came from gambling, which is nuts. Like, and you only hear about stuff like that in low budget movies in the 70s and 80s. And I love that.
Well, I mean, there were so many less regulations at the time.
That's very true.
It was just a sort of Wild West, really. Wild West period. The studio system was gone. Independent films were kind of finally making their names known at that point in time. They were more than just, like, blue cinema, really.
Right. All right, so before I get to the Maniac Cop connection, my most favorite thing that I found out about this movie is amazing. You know the movie Flashdance?
Yes.
You know the song Maniac from Flashdance?
Yes.
That was originally written for this movie.
What?
Yeah, dude, it's so crazy. I can't find I can't find all the lyrics, and I was hoping there was a version of the song out there, but I can't find it. So here's what you've got from the Flashdance version. You've got, she's a maniac on the floor, and she's dancing like she never danced before, yeah? Apparently that line in the original version that was written for Maniac is, he's a maniac, that's for sure. He will kill your cat and nail him to the door. So somewhere out there in the world...
Wait, I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to ask you to sing that so I can sort of put my mind in that headspace.
Oh, sure. He's a maniac, that's for sure. He will kill your cat and nail him to the door. How is that?
Oh, it's great. I hope you can find some instrumentals to put behind that.
Yeah, we'll see about that. I think we're getting into copyright there, and we already got our Halloween episodes claimed.
You can't listen to one of our Halloween episodes on YouTube, guys.
So yeah, I just think that's like that stuff like that probably happens so much more often than we realize it. I just think it's so funny that somebody sat down and wrote a pop song about a serial killer that ended up getting used in a movie about a
pop culture music video movie, yeah.
Dancer movie. Yeah, it's just absolutely crazy to me. I thought that's definitely my favorite bit of trivia.
Now, that dance that she actually did was also originally intended.
Yeah, that was Frank Zito actually, in fact, he was going to do that when he premiered in Maniac Cop 2. That scene was, but unfortunately he passed before filming.
And, he was so good, he didn't even need to stunt double.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was beautiful. So, yeah, he was also the character of, we just talked about this when we did all the Maniac Cop movies. I think it was Maniac Cop 2 or 3 where they decide they're going to go take over the prison. That's
Maniac Cop 2.
All right.
3 is the one with the weird voodoo thing.
Oh, that's right. So in 2, when he meets his serial killer friend, like we talked about, that was actually supposed to be Frank Zito, played by Joe Spinell, but he had passed away before filming, so they just redid that entire character. And if you think about it, that makes the ending of Maniac make a lot more sense, because you've got that cliffhanger sort of, the killer opened his eyes thing. And that would have been cool had he survived to see that continue into Maniac Cop and to see how that would have changed Maniac Cop 2. But, I mean, I'm very happy with what we got.
I can imagine. I loved the actor who was in Maniac Cop 2. I thought he had his own fun kind of
he was
Charles Manson vibe. But I can imagine Joe Spinell saying that line, "I thought you were my friend." I can imagine it being more heartbreaking.
Oh yeah, it would have been so sad had he said it.
Yeah. He's got this puppy dog like feel to him that you like, even though he's a demented killer in Maniac, you feel bad for him the whole time.
Yeah, you really do. And I think the reason you do that is because they gave him a normal life and they split his personality so well, and Spinell played it so well too. Like you've got the side of him on this date, visiting this girl, being super functional, talking to his neighbors, just being a bro, you know. And then you've got this. And here is the only way we can shoehorn incel into this movie, is the other aspect of his personality is definitely very incel-y because of what he went through with his mother, I think.
So he's Dr. Chad and Mr. Incel.
Yeah, exactly. He's sort of both
Dr.
rolled
Incel
into
and Mr.
one.
Chad?
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Yeah. Also, he mansplains Hannah's photography to her, so.
Oh, yeah, he does. I don't even know if they meant that to be part of the whole thing or if that was just something people did back then, you know. Not that mansplaining's ever good, but...
Yeah, that was the one part where he, as on his normal side, that he seemed a little weird. Like, he really got into that whole photography description, and I'm sure for her, it just seemed like he was an artist describing a passionate element of his own work. But it was him getting weird. It was you seeing kind of just a little bit of that facade on, you know?
Yeah. And he wasn't really lying about his art. Like, he definitely displayed those scalps very artistically.
Yeah, he can keep them forever. They're there forever. They never get old. They never have to die. That's part of his speech.
Oh, yeah. No, I was just reading. Apparently, Tom Savini was the one who actually pulled the trigger on that dummy in the car. And he apparently felt a little weird that he shot himself in the face.
I love Tom Savini.
I do, too. He's had a very interesting life.
Well, that's all I have to say about Whoa, I have one more thing. The mannequins, when he was, I guess, shopping for them at one point, and you saw these different bizarre mannequins he was looking at. The angel one with the boots was so unique.
Oh, yeah, during the kind of montage thing?
Yeah. There was this mannequin of an angel, and it kind of looked like the most artistic mannequin display I've ever seen. And he was wearing hiking boots. That was funny.
The mannequin, the angel mannequin was?
Yes.
I didn't catch that. I caught the mannequin. I just didn't catch the boots. Yeah, that's all I've got. I mean, am I wrong about my, like, incelliness here? Like, is this how you would
I think you're right.
it? Yeah.
I think you're exactly right, because, you know, at the end of the day, they're all people.
True, and I guess incels are people, too.
When they finally decide to be.
Yeah. I guess. And I think everybody is lonely sometimes. You know what I mean? This sounds so after school special all of a sudden.
I think like sappy piano music starting just as you said that.
Well, no, like...
You're sitting down beside a couple of kids at the picnic table.
Like, one of the other things this show really does for me, and I've talked about this just before, is it's very nostalgic for me to go back and watch a lot of these movies, because I am a 41-year-old man-child, which means I have 30 years, actually more like 35 years of horror under my belt. And a lot of these movies will take me back to, like, I remember watching Maniac with my best friend and hating it when we were teenagers. And so it takes me back to there, and then I fast forward my life a little bit to the 20s because I'm starting to think about the difference between good incels and bad incels. And I'm thinking about everybody in their late teens and their 20s where, like, you kind of have, because, and maybe it was the time period, but, like, there is a point where you can't understand. And I'm not saying I ever thought that girls owed me sex. Because
it's just, I'm waiting for him to see how deep is he going to dig this hole.
Yeah, no. I never thought that. I never thought that. But I did go through a period where I was not dating anyone, and people just didn't seem interested, and I was frustrated. And I'm like, I'm being nice to all these people. I'm doing everything I feel like I should do. Why don't they like me? And it never dawned on my younger mind that that's because people have choices, and they chose not to be into me. And that's okay. And that's something that a lot of people, I guess, have to learn. And that's something that some people don't ever learn. And those are the ones that get scary and start to do terrible things.
I don't want to dig into, like, massive social history on this subject, about men versus women, whatever, or
I get that.
Social race, any of that. But I do think that if you can't possibly be in someone else's shoes, for instance, like being a man thinking about a woman's perspective, or being a woman thinking about a man's perspective, it's difficult to do that then. Yeah. It's difficult to see that there are people who probably have a lot of the same motivations you do. And if you get trapped in a group that thinks that they don't have the same motivations, a group that resents that, then you start to isolate yourself, and you start it's a feedback loop.
Yeah, exactly.
And it becomes hate. It's resentment, and it becomes hate. And I'm sure I could give you a stupid Star Wars speech, but I hate Star Wars. And it's just the only way to get out of it is to remember that you're all people, you know, and to maybe get away from the people who encourage you to be hateful. And unfortunately, the whole incel thing does encourage a lot of hate.
Yeah, it does quite a bit. And some people never get out of it, and I think that that's terrible.
Yeah. I mean, I feel bad for them, but...
Yeah, I mean, you can only feel bad for people for so long. Like, there's growing and evolving, and even if some of these people are doing it because of a mental illness, there is help out there. You just have to seek it out, and you just have to swallow your... You know what? No, you don't even have to swallow your pride, because there's nothing... You're not losing your pride if you reach out.
Well, I've told you a few stories about some bad dates I've gone on. So yeah. I've gone on some dates with a couple of incels, and it's not me, it's them.
Yeah, no, I mean, honestly, I've gone out with some female incels as well, and it is, and in fact, I left one of them with that specific line. I'm like, yo, it's not me. It is definitely you.
I love that.
But we're not going to get into some of the terrible things I've broken up with girls, like some of the terrible things I've said. I broke up with one girl by just straight up quoting movies. I'll tell you about that some other time when we do a love episode or something.
I'm picturing you with a boombox, holding it above your head with sunglasses, and it's just you recorded going, I hate you.
No. I did the entire speech from Dangerous Liaisons when John Malkovich's character is breaking up with Uma Thurman's character. The whole it's quite beyond my control. I did that entire monologue breaking up with the girl.
I think I would cut you off and close the door before you could finish with your stupid act.
Well, she didn't see the movie, so she just thought I was making it up.
Oh my god.
Again, this was a bad relationship, so I don't feel guilty about it, but it was hilarious, dude.
Now that you know what monsters we are, guys.
Yeah, please feel free to tweet us at Nowhere23 or search for Hallow-Holics on Twitter.
You can also check out our blog at hallow-holic.blogspot.com or hallow-holic.wordpress.com.
This lonely man I met at a coffee shop that keeps asking me out on dates no matter how often I tell him I don't want to go with him wants me to tell you that you can also look us up on podpedia.org by searching for our portal, HHN.
It's kind of weird, that he would be so nice, because it seems like he has weird motivations. Wasn't there another guy who wanted you to tell people about Podpedia?
I think this was the same guy with a fake mustache on.
Oh.
And he was being nice, but there was something evil behind his eyes.
So he's doing the good cop, bad cop routine.
I think so.
Yeah. Well, I would also recommend you guys check out the Pop Cult Net podcast hosted by James. Hopefully, before this episode is up, probably, actually, an interview I actually had with him will be posted in one of his episodes. So that's going to be super cool.
Yeah, I'm excited for that, but I wasn't allowed to be in it.
Well, no, you weren't.
I wasn't allowed. It's okay.
It's not that you weren't allowed.
I embarrass you.
I had scheduled it when you were busy.
I embarrass you. I understand.
You do, but I'm used to that. So anyway, as I was saying about red pills and blue pills, if you take the red pill, you'll realize that it's not you when you have issues with women. It's all the women.
I'm just gonna take this cyanide instead to stop your speaking forever.
I lose more friends that way.
I'm sure you do.
Those cyanide pills away.